garbage collection and sweep. What is garbage collection? So you have all this data in your dedupe pool. Some of it has reached retention. Our garbage collection process kicks off and it receives a list from our internal database of all images or data in the dedupe pool that has reached its retention and is essentially a candidate for expiration. It's a little bit different than the snap pool. The snap pool just expires an image. It deletes it, it goes away. Really what we do is we just mark the space clear, you can write over it, but at the end of the day, you end up with more room in the snap pool. The dedupe pool, because of some of the safety measures we put in place, requires a GC and sweep process. So what GC will do is we'll go through and say, I have these, we'll say 10 images that were all supposed to expire yesterday. And it, figuratively speaking, puts a tick mark next to the name of that image. And then it waits the interval. Most of you have your GCs set up to run every 7 days when the pool is at 65% consumption. Both of those are configurable parameters, by the way. Our support team can help you tune those to your needs. And so that threshold gets triggered. You've either consumed more than 65% of your pool and it's been 7 days. Now, both of these have to be satisfied for GC to kick off. If you've been 7 days, but you're only 40% consumed, no GC will start. If you get over 65%, which was our consumption threshold, but it's only been 3 days, no GC will start. It must be over 65% after 7 days when the check is made. And again, all of this is configurable and our support team can help you out with that. So once both of those conditions are satisfied as true, it's Friday and we're over 65%, GC starts. As we mentioned, it goes through and it puts a tick mark, figuratively speaking, next to all the images that have expired from the dedupe pool. Now the next week comes around, it's Friday again. We're over 65% again. Second GC kicks off. We get a whole new list. Here's all the stuff that just expired, but we need to go back and check that original list. And we look and say, okay, here's everything that we saw last week. We've acknowledged all of it. We've marked it. We've put a tick in the box to show that we've seen this and it's ready to be expired. And then we check, has this data been accessed since the last time we saw it in the dedupe pool? So after we saw it and said, yes, this is good to expire, we didn't expire it, we just put a tick next to it. We look to see if the data was accessed at any point in between when we put the tick next to it and this current GC that's running 7 days later. If that data has been accessed in the last 7 days, or whatever the interval is, again, configurable, we will not clean that data. We call this revived data, which is, went to dedupe, maybe you still need it. And whenever the CDS, whenever its logic is faced with the decision to either keep or delete, we always keep and ask for manual intervention. And so it's easy to go in and get rid of data, not so easy to go in and restore it. So that's why you'll see a piece of data that you thought should have expired, but it's still there the week after. It's because we like to check it twice to make sure that you didn't access it in between and make sure that it's truly good to expire out of the dedupe pool. Once images are out of the dedupe pool, we can make no guarantee that they can be recovered. It certainly is not a customer accessible operation. So really the key here is to make sure that you're only expiring what you're absolutely sure you don't need anymore. Now the manual cleanup, there are a few options that we have. Unfortunately, they all require our support team to get involved, as they do require an elevated access at the command line. However, I'd like to let you know about them. So if you need them, you can engage our support team to get some help. Now, if you are going to repurpose a CDS or a SCI, or your business policies have changed and you decide, we were keeping data for a month, we don't need to keep our remote data for a month anymore. We really only need it for about 15 days. You can engage our support team and they can go in and they'll ask you for a date. And they will go in and they will mark all the data in the GC pool after that date. So we'll use today as an example. Today is January 24th. If we decided that any data that was on board on January 15th, anything between the 5th, prior to the 15th, we don't need it anymore. We're shortening our retentions. We can go in and we can manually, I talked about putting the tick mark next to the images. Our support team can go in and say, every image that existed before this date, go ahead and put the tick mark there. And actually what it'll do is it'll put both tick marks with no GC. So the next time the GC runs, it says, oh, okay, there's 2 tick marks there. We can go ahead and sweep it. Now, sweep is the process by which we actually delete the data and reclaim your space. So we talked about GC. It does its first check. It comes back in a week. It says, have you accessed it? No? Okay, we'll put a second check. Those 2 checks are what sweep looks for. When sweep starts crawling through this file structure to see what can be cleaned and what should stay, it will not remove anything that does not have 2 check marks on it. Those 2 check marks, again, get there by the process of either 2 GCs or a manual operation, which our support team could do for you. The sweep takes roughly half as long as the GC takes to run. I will not get into how long does it take for GC to finish because it is so environmentally dependent. It depends on things like service times at your disk, transactional latency, network speeds. Unfortunately, there's no overriding guidance here. It's really a matter of looking at your infrastructure, seeing how much data you can move, see how quickly your disks respond, and then generally after 1 or 2 GCs, you can get a pretty good feeling that, yeah, it should take about this long every time. Thank you for joining us for another YouTube Tech Tip video. If you like the content you're seeing on this channel, please remember to like the video, subscribe to the channel, and turn on notifications so you will be alerted to any future content.